The overnight temperatures are finally over 50 degrees Fahrenheit here in Connecticut. We're bringing our pepper plants outside to their final locations, and with that, we need to start thinking about pests. I'm Crystalline, and today I'm going to go over a pepper plant pest timeline so you can be prepared and know exactly when to expect each pest in your garden. That way you can be extra prepared this season to recognize pests on your pepper plants and also keep the populations as low as possible. Before I get into the timeline, one of the biggest mistakes we see this time of year is the overuse of pest control. It's really early in the season still, and those beneficial insect populations haven't really quite established yet. So if you see a few pests on your young plants, it's important not to panic and use pesticides right away. Local garden centers still have a lot of plants in stock at this time, including a large variety of flowers, which will attract those beneficial insects to your plants. So if you haven't planted alyssum already, pick a few up and get them situated in your garden beds to keep your peppers company throughout the season. First up are aphids. These are always one of the first pests that we spot in the garden on our young plants. Typically, we see them as early as mid to late May before we even get our plants situated outside in their final locations. In the past, when we first started growing peppers, we may have panicked a little bit and sprayed the plants with neem oil to prevent the populations from getting out of control. But now we know better, and we typically ignore aphids the first few weeks of the gardening season. Now, if there are a lot of aphids on a plant, or they seem to be doing more damage than the plant can handle, we'll spray the plant with water from the hose to knock them off, especially before planting them into the ground. But remember, ladybug larvae actually eat aphids. In fact, it's a major part of their diet. So by planting flowers like alyssum and cosmos, and leaving some tasty aphids for them to eat, you're going to attract those good guys to your plants. So try not to panic if you do see a few aphids at the start of the season. Next up on the list are cutworms. These are nocturnal pests that hide underneath the soil's surface, anxiously awaiting for you to transplant your young, tender pepper seedlings into the ground. Typically, you won't see them during the day unless it's extra cloudy, but if you've ever woken up to find a pepper plant cut clean off at the soil level, you may have cutworms in your garden. These are early season pests, typically showing up at the beginning of June, and the best method to control them is to handpick them off at night. You'll know they're cutworms because they curl up into a distinctive C shape when they're disturbed, so they're pretty easy to identify. Using a cardboard or tinfoil plant collar around the base of any fragile plants can help prevent these worms from cutting them clean. Cutworm activity should decrease towards the end of June as they continue through their life cycle. If you've been getting a lot of rainfall in your area, you may want to look out for the next pest around mid-June. Slugs and snails love humid, wet weather, and they'll typically come crawling out whenever we get a good rainfall or extended cloudy period. You typically won't see much slug activity during dry spells, but the moment the rain starts, they emerge from their hiding spots under mulch and debris to feast on your pepper plants. If you've ever noticed ragged, irregular holes in your pepper plant's leaves or fruits, along with slime trails, you're likely dealing with slugs. They're most active at dawn and dusk, so that's the best time to catch them in action. We found that hand-picking them during these active times is really effective. Just drop them into a bucket of soapy water. You can also use a simple beer trap or use an iron phosphate bait around your plants. Coffee grounds can also work as a deterrent, and there's actually research backing this up due to the caffeine content. Keep an eye on the weather forecast because each rainy period can bring a new wave of slugs and snails, which often can last days after the rain stops. Next up on the list are earwigs. These insects have distinctive pincers on their rear ends, and they're another nocturnal pest that becomes highly active around mid-June. During the day, they love to hide in small crevices under mulch or in any decaying organic matter around your garden beds. If you're seeing small ragged holes in your pepper's leaves and soft fruits as well, earwigs might be the culprit, though the damage can look very similar to that of other chewing insects, so you'll need to do some detective work. Here's the thing about earwigs though, they're actually beneficial insects as well because they feed on aphids and other soft-bodied insects. So we have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with them in the garden. If they're causing significant damage to your young plants, you can set up simple oil traps to catch them, and you can also reduce the mulch immediately around your pepper plants to eliminate their daytime hiding spots. But honestly, unless they are absolutely devastating your plants, we tend to tolerate them in the garden. Next up on the list is one of our least favorite garden pests, and that would be beetles, specifically Asiatic beetles and Japanese beetles. While they cause similar damage to your pepper plants, they operate on completely different schedules. Japanese beetles are the metallic green copper-winged pests that show up during the day, and they create that distinctive lace-like damage pattern on your pepper's leaves. They love to feed in groups and can defoliate a plant surprisingly fast. Asiatic beetles, on the other hand, are the night shift workers that cause similar small ragged holes in your leaves, but you'll only catch them in action with a flashlight after dark. Both types emerge in June when the soil temperatures reach 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and their activity tends to peak through July. If you're seeing beetle damage on your plants, your best bet is to hand pick them in the morning for Japanese beetles, and then go out at night to get those nocturnal Asiatic beetles if they're an issue for you. And we do suggest avoiding those pheromone-based beetle traps that you see at the garden centers because they can actually attract more beetle populations to your property. For heavy infestations, you can use insect netting or row cover, but honestly, handpicking them every few days helps keep the populations manageable for us. The good news is their feeding period only lasts about 6 to 8 weeks, so this isn't a season-long battle, but it can definitely be a devastating one. Now, towards the end of June and heading into July, there are a few pests you should keep on your radar because they can really impact your pepper harvests. Stink bugs typically show up in July and continue through August. These shield-shaped insects are particularly problematic because they target your developing fruits directly, not just the foliage of your plants. You'll want to start checking for the brown marmorated stink bug on your pepper's fruits and act quickly if you spot them. The European corn borer also peaks in July and August, and despite their name, they absolutely love peppers. Watch for small entry holes in your fruits, and this pest can ruin your entire harvest if left unchecked. And next, hornworms emerge in mid-July, and these are the rapid devastators that can strip your entire plants seemingly overnight. The first sign is usually large black droppings on your leaves, and by the time you see those, you need to act fast. It's worth noting that these July pests are more destructive than the early season June pests because they're going after your actual pepper plant harvests, not just stressing your plants and chewing on the leaves. It's good to know what's coming so you can start preparing your pest management strategies ahead of time. Let us know which pests you're dealing with right now in the garden and historically which early season pests you deal with in your growing zone and climate. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.